Alex Hormozi uses a ruthless hiring strategy to build $100 million companies, while most entrepreneurs burn cash on useless employees. Today, I'm going to be revealing Alex Hormozi's full hiring framework. He utilizes a hiring glitch that helped him pay 1/10 of what you would usually pay to hire employees that drive results. So how does Alex Hormozi do it? I've spent the last week breaking down Alex Hormozi's hiring strategy so that you don't have to. I boiled it down to the 3 core principles that make his approach so devastatingly effective.
A year or two ago, we had an HR director, and I'll just tell you what happened. So she had taken upon herself, because she didn't have enough work. I know this, but she doesn't know this. It was because she didn't have enough work, and she had overhired. She had 6 people in her department. 6 people in HR. Can you imagine? 6. We had a 100-person company. Like 6 people. Like it's just so many people. So she had a lot of people, and no one had any work to do.
Right off the bat, Alex is revealing a massive problem that most entrepreneurs don't even recognize until it's too late. 6 people in HR for a 100-person company is absolutely insane. That's a 6% overhead just for HR alone. Most successful companies run lean HR departments, usually 1 HR person for every 40 to 50 employees, not 1 for every 17. But here's the real issue. The HR director didn't even realize that she was overstaffed. This is what happens when you hire people who don't understand business fundamentals. They create work to justify their existence instead of focusing on what actually drives value. I have seen this pattern with dozens of my clients who came to us after making expensive in-house hiring mistakes. They'll bring on full-time employees for tasks that could easily be handled by skilled virtual assistants at less than $8 an hour.
And so she took it upon herself to do a salary analysis, which is basically a study of how much everyone in the company, quote, should be getting paid based on, the role, their experience, what the market's playing, and where they live, right? And this took like 90 days for her to do this for every single person in the company. And so she used up, a lot of company resources, 3, 4, 5 employees, etc., for this period of time to do the study.
This is where things might get really dangerous. She spent 90 days and multiple employees' time on what amounts to an academic exercise. Think about it. That's about $100,000 in payroll resources just to conduct a study. Most entrepreneurs would look at this and immediately see the red flags, but this HR director thought she was being proactive. The real problem is that she was solving a problem that didn't really exist. Alex mentions later that they weren't having trouble attracting or retaining talent, which means the current compensation was working just fine. This is exactly the kind of expensive busy work that we help our clients avoid. One of our very recent clients in the construction industry was drowning in similar administrative tasks until they partnered with us. Now they save over 20 hours per week that used to be spent on admin work and bookkeeping, time that's now focused on actual revenue-generating activities.
And the result of the study was that she had determined that, 20% or 25% of the company was being, overpaid, and then 20 or 25% of the company was being underpaid, and then about 50% of the company was being paid, appropriately. And so the conclusion that she came to was, well, I'm going to email everyone and just say, if they were being overpaid, they were going to stay there because we're not going to give people, pay cuts. If they're adequately paid, they'll stay where they're at. And if someone's being underpaid, we'll email them and say, hey, you just got a raise. Congratulations, right?
This is absolutely mind-blowing. She essentially decided to give random raises to 25% of the company with zero justification beyond market research. No performance reviews, no increased responsibilities, no business case. Just arbitrary raises because the spreadsheet said so. The most damaging part is that these employees had no context for why they were getting paid more. When you give someone a raise without explaining what additional value they would need to provide, you're essentially paying more for the same output.
And so this may have been the single stupidest thing I've ever seen someone do in my entire life. But that was the decision that was made. And so this was reported to me at a at our quarterly. And this was actually her accomplishment for the quarter. And I just remember just being so bewildered, befuddled, dumbfounded by the fact that this person, this human being, had thought that this was a good use of company resources.
Alex's reaction here tells us everything about how successful entrepreneurs think about resource allocation. This HR director was proud of what she had done. She thought giving people raises was an accomplishment worth celebrating at a quarterly meeting. But from a business owner's perspective, she had just volunteered to reduce company profit by hundreds of thousands of dollars annually with no corresponding increase in value. It's like burning money and calling it a success.
So the reason this was terrible was that so she literally used company resources, probably $100,000 of payroll resources, to create this solution that then just paid out more money from the company, which is just my wallet. It's just my bank account, right? And just paid out more money for no reason, and did it in a way that anybody who got paid more had no explanation for why they were getting paid more and provide no value.
This gets to the heart of what most people don't understand about business. Every dollar that goes out in wages has to come from somewhere. It's not monopoly money, it's real cash that could be invested in growth, new product development, or building cash reserves for economic downturns. When you increase someone's compensation without a corresponding increase in their value output, you're making the company less efficient and less competitive. Alex estimates this decision cost him $600,000 in profit, money that could have been reinvested to grow the business and create more opportunities for everyone.
Your job is not to make employees happy. As an owner, your job is not to make employees happy. As a manager, your job is not to make employees happy. As an HR director, your job is not to make employees happy. Employees' job is to make employees happy. Human beings are responsible for making themselves happy. There are people in Auschwitz who wrote books about how they were happy, and there are people in America living in the top 1% of earners of the whole world who are miserable.
Alex Hormozi's stance here is certainly controversial. However, Alex raises a very important point. Many HR departments operate under the false premise that their job is to make employees happy. However, happiness is an internal state that can't be manufactured by outside circumstances. At least not sustainably. Even great material advantage doesn't necessarily equal happiness. And here's Alex's points. Happiness comes from within, not from your job perks or salary. When HR departments focus on employee happiness instead of business value, they end up making decisions like the salary analysis disaster, spending company resources on feel-good initiatives that don't actually improve anyone's life or the business.
Your customer is the company. All right. And now I'm going to be clear about this. The company has three stakeholders. You've got shareholders, the people who own the company. You've got customers, the people who pay the company. And then you've got employees, the people who run the company. All three stakeholders have to be considered.
This is accurate business thinking. Many HR people may think employees are their customers, but Alex correctly identifies that the company itself, which presents all stakeholders, is the real customer. When you put employees first at the expense of shareholders and customers, you create exactly the kind of disaster we just saw. The company needs to balance the interests of all three groups, not prioritize one over the other.
And so you have the value is what you get, and price is what you pay, right? And the goal, I want to be very transparent about this, of the company is to pay as little as possible for the highest amount of value. And that may make people uncomfortable. But the point of all businesses is to get as much price. They want to have as big of a discrepancy as possible.
This is where Alex gets really honest about how business actually works. Every successful business operates under this principle: maximize value while minimizing cost. It's not evil or exploitative. It's basic economics. Think about your own purchasing decisions. When you buy a car, you want the best car for the lowest price. When you hire a contractor, you want the highest quality work for the most reasonable cost. Companies operate the same way with employees. The alternative, paying more than necessary for the value received, is what leads to business failure and ultimately job losses for everyone. Now let me share something that might help you think differently about outsourcing and team building. I've put together a comprehensive guide that breaks down 50 specific tasks most entrepreneurs are handling themselves that could easily be delegated to skilled virtual assistants for a fraction of the cost of your average employee. You can grab it for free in the description. It's honestly transformed how I think about building efficient teams.
Um, and I want to be 100% clear. I do value marketing, sales, and product more than operations. Here's why. Not that long ago, there was a period of time where I had mentors who were like, you need to put operations first, right? This is part of scaling. You have to delegate, blah, blah, blah. And so there was a period of time where I put operations on a pedestal and was like, no, guys, we need to just do what operations wants us to do.
This admission from Alex is a great insight. Even someone at his level made the mistake of prioritizing operations over core business functions. Many entrepreneurs get seduced by the idea that better operations will solve all of their problems. But Alex learned the hard way that this is backwards thinking. Operations should support and enable the core business functions, not drive them. If you flip this hierarchy, you end up with beautiful processes that produce terrible results. We see this frequently with new clients who've been told they need to hire operations managers or full-time administrators first. The smart approach is actually to get high-level virtual assistants who can handle your operational needs at less than $8 an hour while you focus on revenue-generating activities.
And to be clear for definition, operations is everything that is non-core to the value of the company, all right? That is IT, that is HR, that is finance, that's legal. All of those comprise operations, all right? And to be clear about what that means is it's everything that must happen to keep the company running, but is not a core value driver for top-line revenue or for customers.
Alex is drawing a crucial distinction here. Operations are necessary but not sufficient for business success. HR, IT, finance, and legal all have to function, but they don't directly create value for customers or generate revenue. Marketing brings in customers, sales converts them, and product delivers the value. Everything else is support infrastructure. Understanding this hierarchy is critical for resource allocation and hiring decisions. This is exactly why our most successful clients use virtual assistants for these operational functions rather than hiring expensive full-time employees. Like the client I mentioned earlier, who reclaimed over 20 hours per week for core business activities instead of getting bogged down in administrative work that doesn't directly generate revenue.
It's like if you have a superstar salesperson and that person, is being paid, quote, above market, right? Above market value. There's two ways of seeing market value. There's market value, which is like, what is the rest of the market paying for this, right? And then what am I getting in return for this specific person? So for like, if you have an all-star salesperson, like you may have gone through 20 salespeople to find an all-star salesperson for your specific company and your specific product, right?
This is where Alex's thinking becomes more sophisticated. Market value isn't just what other companies pay. It's what that specific person is worth to your specific business. If you have a salesperson who generates $2 million in revenue, while the average salesperson in your company generates $500,000, then paying that person 50% more than market rate might actually be a bargain. Most HR departments don't think that way. They look at salary surveys and try to keep everyone within some arbitrary range, completely ignoring the actual value each person creates.
And I was like, I think that's stupid that you disagree with that. I was like, make the economic argument. If we lose that person and then we lose half of our sales, how can you tell me that was not worth 10% more on their base salary? It's like, well, I hadn't thought about it like that. I was like, right, you need to think like an owner, right? You got to think like an owner. What am I losing here, right?
This exchange perfectly illustrates the difference between employee thinking and owner thinking. The HR director was focused on fairness and policy, while Alex was focused on economic impact. When you think like an owner, every decision comes down to return on investment. If paying someone 10% more prevents you from losing 50% of your sales, it's not even a difficult decision. The same ROI thinking applies to choosing virtual assistants over full-time hires for non-revenue generating roles. When you can get dedicated, skilled support instead of paying $50,000 to $70,000 annually for a full-time employee, the math becomes pretty compelling.
And to the same degree, the corollary to that is like, well, I feel like you don't value customer service as much. Like, what if we had an amazing customer service role? This is kind of like the counter example, right? Like, well, I feel like you're willing to, pay these people more than you are willing to pay these people. And it's like, yes, I am, because they provide more value.
Alex is being brutally honest here about value-based compensation. Not all roles are created equal in terms of business impact. A superstar salesperson who generates millions in revenue should be compensated differently than someone in customer service, even if both are excellent at their jobs. This doesn't mean customer service isn't important. It just means it has a different economic impact on the business in general. Alex actually explains the math on this.
She was like, it probably wouldn't change the revenue. And I was like, right. And for that reason, that is how market value is established. And so for everyone, it's like, this is the real world. All right. Like, I don't know what the Harvard Business Review, says about making happy employees and like all this, whatever hoodoo. In the real world, you don't get a trophy. All right. Not everyone's first. Not everyone makes the most amount of money. You get paid based on the value that you provide. And a good owner understands that, right?
Alex is cutting through all the feel-good corporate nonsense to get to the fundamental truth about compensation. You get paid based on the value you create, not based on effort, intentions, or fairness. This is actually more honest and transparent than most corporate environments where compensation decisions are made behind closed doors, based on politics and favoritism rather than clear economic metrics.
You provide value by, one, protecting the company in all ways, all right? And the way that you do that is, first, when people come to you and say, hey, I want to hire so-and-so, your first answer should probably be no. Give me a reason why your team is so overworked that they can't just work more, right? Show me your hour-by-hour utilization that you have. And I'll tell you right now, and I've said it in the past, a lot of people don't work that hard, all right?
This is where Alex gets into practical hiring strategy. Most companies hire too quickly and fire too slowly. Alex suggests the opposite approach. Default to saying no to new hires unless there is a compelling business case. The question about utilization is brilliant. Most people who say they need help haven't actually measured how they're spending their time. When you track it hour by hour, you often find massive inefficiencies that can be fixed without adding headcount. This is actually one of the first things we help clients with. Conducting a proper time audit to identify what tasks actually need to be delegated versus what can be eliminated or streamlined. Just like the other client I mentioned, they could save 20+ hours weekly by delegating administrative tasks that were eating up their team's valuable time.
And a lot of people will say that they are overworked because they literally do not understand what work is. All the time. I know this for a fact. There's some of you listening to this right now who spend your entire day not working, trying to work. Spend all day getting fuck all done because you're in your head and you literally have an inability to focus. That is not a company's fault. That is your lack of ability in being disciplined and learning the skills of learning how to work.
Alex is calling out something many managers are afraid to address directly. Many people mistake being busy for being productive. They spend 8 hours at their desk but only accomplish 2 hours of actual work. This isn't necessarily the employee's fault. Many people were never taught how to work effectively. But it's also not the company's responsibility to hire additional people to compensate for individual productivity issues.
We have incredibly low attrition. We fire people like crazy, but people don't quit. And that's because we have a really high performance culture. Like, people don't last. You know what I mean? Like, it's low performers don't last. I heard this from Grant Cardone, but I really liked it. It's like, gym lunch is a dangerous place to work.
Alex is describing a high-performance culture where people either excel or leave. This might sound harsh, but it's actually better for everyone involved. High performers thrive in environments where they are surrounded by other high performers. And low performers are better off finding roles where they can succeed. The dangerous place to work concept means you'll either grow rapidly and learn more than anywhere else, or you're being exposed as not being ready for that level of performance. Both outcomes are valuable. This is actually why our virtual assisted matching process is so rigorous. We pre-screen for high performers who thrive in results-driven environments, so you're not wasting time on managing people who can't keep up with your pace.
I was like, do we have a problem attracting talent? It's like, no. I was like, okay. So the pay that we are currently offering is, we're having no issue finding talented people to work for these positions at these price points. It's like, no. It's like, okay. Do we have a major problem in attrition? Are we losing employees left and right two competitors who are paying more, offering more, or that we got headhunters picking off our people? It's like, no. It's like, then why did you just choose to spend $600,000 a year more of bottom line profit?
This is a great framework for evaluating any compensation decision. Alex systematically eliminated the only two valid reasons for increasing pay, which made it obvious that the salary analysis was a waste of resources. Most entrepreneurs don't think through compensation decisions this systematically. They get emotional about fairness or market rates without considering whether there's actually a business problem to solve.
The point of the company is to buy value at the lowest possible price. That is the point. I don't care what anyone else says. That is the point. All right. You're going to try and pay for the value as little as you can, because that discrepancy is where the profit is, right? Just being real. That's where the profit is. You need to have a discrepancy in order to have a profit so that the company can continue to run, right?
Alex is being transparent here about how businesses operate. Profit comes from the spread between what you pay for inputs, including labor, and what the customers pay for outputs. This is not exploitation, it's basic economics. Without profit, there is no business. Without business, there are no jobs. Everyone benefits when the company operates efficiently and profitably.
Everyone knows, like, if you have a star employee, they're usually worth like 3 or 4 employees, 5 employees in output, right? I'm probably worth a lot of employees in output in terms of top line revenue of this business. So I get disproportionately paid. Is it fair?
Alex summarizes value-based compensation at the basis here. Some people create exponentially more value than others, and they should be compensated accordingly. This is actually more fair than trying to pay everyone the same regardless of contribution. Alex acknowledges that he gets paid disproportionately because he creates disproportionate value. This alignment between value creation and compensation is what drives business success. The key insight from Alex's hiring strategy is that everything comes down to value creation and economic thinking. Most companies fail at hiring because they prioritize the wrong things: happiness, fairness, market rates, instead of focusing on value creation and business results. When you think like an owner, every hiring and compensation decision becomes much clearer. You hire when you need more capacity to create value. You pay based on the value someone creates, and you structure everything to maximize the long-term success of the business. The smartest entrepreneurs are realizing that virtual assistants allow them to apply Alex's principles perfectly, getting maximum value at optimal cost while maintaining the flexibility to scale up or down based on actual business needs. This approach might seem harsh, but it's actually more honest and sustainable than the alternatives. Companies that operate this way can afford to pay their top performance extremely well, invest in growth, and weather economic storms because they maintain healthy profit margins. The framework Alex outlined completely changed how many people think about team building and resource allocation. The guide I mentioned earlier walks you through 50 specific tasks that most entrepreneurs handle themselves, but could easily delegate it to skilled team members, along with the exact criteria for deciding what to outsource and when. The link is in the description. What's your biggest challenge when it comes to hiring and managing team members? Drop a comment below and let me know how Alex's framework applies to your situation. And if this breakdown helped you see hiring differently, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights from the entrepreneurs who've actually built 9-figure businesses.